Hi guys, how are you all today morning? Good morning. Today is 29th September 2023. My name is T.S.V. Raghavan and I live in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, India. This is my spiritual vlog on YouTube. Hardan, 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 Haribol, TRSV, Nectar, NECTAR, Nectar. In this particular vlog, in all my previous videos, we have been discussing about the knowledge and information that we have gleaned through the study of spiritual books, scriptures, contemplation on the material universe, and meditation on the spiritual universe. This particular video in this vlog is no exception to that rule. In fact, it is a mere continuation of all that we have been doing in all my previous videos. Kindly subscribe to this vlog and press the bell icon so that I may keep reminding you of all my previous, present, and future videos. So let us continue with the topic of discussion for today's video. In the past few videos, we have been discussing at length a term called liberation in spiritualism and materialism. Liberation means the ultimate liberation of a human living entity, whether male or female, from this cycle of repeated births and deaths in this material world permanently. In that process, we discussed about this theory at length, along with some case histories which authenticated the validity of this particular term. However, while talking about liberation, we came to compare it with one very crude example in this material world as well. We all know by now that when a spiritual spark gets advertently or inadvertently ejected out of the spirit hole, it floats endlessly in the space for several years, decades, centuries, or millenniums before it spots this huge material world. Once it spots this material world, this particular spirit spark, in its intrigue and its interest or curiosity, comes near this particular material world. By now, it genuinely gets attracted to this material world and tries to gravitate towards it. Suddenly, this spirit soul gets attached to this material world. As soon as it does so, this spirit spark ceases to be a spark and turns into a raw, unevolved spirit soul. This material world does not appreciate such connection with the individual unevolved raw spirit soul. Hence, to prevent that irritation from harming this material world, it envelops this spirit soul with four layers of material body, being the first as causal body of intelligence and logic, second body of astral mind, feelings and emotions, third body of etheric senses being sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch, and the fourth gross body made up of four material elements, namely air, fire, water, and earth. After it does so, this spirit soul, thus entrapped in four layers of material body, ceases to be a spirit soul anymore and gets a new identity as a living entity in this material world. Once this living entity or newly born living entity gets at- attached to or acclimatized to this material world, a cycle of repeated births and deaths in this material world happens to the same living entity. This chain includes several births, right from a single cell to algae, amoeba, shrubs, weeds, grass, creepers, plants, trees, worms, insects, ants, reptiles, amphibians, and animals, and then finally as a human being. We are talking about the liberation from such repeated cycle of birth and death of a human living entity, whether male or female. This starts its process or long drawn process the moment that particular human living entity, by default or by design, begins to walk on the spiritual path. In that process, we made one crude comparison. We know by now that when the spirit soul gets attracted to this material world, sooner or later it gets entrapped into four layers of material body and an endless cycle of births and deaths in various species, which includes pleasure, pain, failure, frustration, tears, sweat, blood, etc. Similarly, in this very material world, among the human living entities, 50% or so are male and 50% or so are female. We can give one identity to either of the species when an individual from that particular sex gets attracted to the opposite sex individual because of various reasons. Suppose a male counterpart gets attracted to the beauty, grace, and effeminacy of a female counterpart. In that case, this male counterpart can be compared to that raw, unevolved spirit soul, and that female counterpart may be compared to this material world. This can happen vice versa also. A female counterpart can play the role of a spirit soul and get attracted to the handsomeness, muscularity, and manliness of a male counterpart, and in both cases, the person who got attracted to the male or female counterpart gets entrapped into a chain of pressure, pain, sweat, blood, etc., all his or her life. This is not a general rule. In general, people do not get so physically attracted to the other counterpart. Instead, they have what is known as platonic love or attraction for the male or female opposite. In such a case, they may get into a wedlock and carry on with raising a family sedentarily without much problem in this material world. But when the same attraction is due to senses, lust, greed, anger, illusion, and ego, these counterparts, whether male or female, who got attracted to their opposites due to various reasons, may sooner or later come to grief. In my next previous video, the video which was the last one and which was done yesterday, we talked about two such case histories which would prove this point clearly. Today, in this video, we shall talk about another case history which will prove this point more clearly to the viewer of this particular video. There is a very famous business house in India. It is very successful and it has factories, offices, showrooms, etc. in various cities and towns all over this country. This business house is very well respected. The story is about the scion of this business house who was born some 50 to 60 years back. This guy was as normal as usual or as understood born with a silver spoon or in fact a golden spoon in his mouth. This guy was born in the lap of luxury as the son of an extremely reputed and successful business house. Because it was so, This guy naturally did not have much to do in his days or in his early age. He did not have to get educated or to work for a living in this hard material world. This boy was extremely beautiful in his childhood with a fair complexion, cat like eyes, and golden hair. Because this boy did not have much to do in life, and because he was not forced to get a proper education, this boy chose to build his physique in the gyms and five-star gyms of a particular city. So, as soon as he reached his teens, he hit the gyms of the city with a vengeance. Thanks to his affluence, his very good looks, and his capacity to build a physique, this boy developed into a tall, extremely handsome, good looking bodybuilder of a human specimen. He looked so good that he did some modeling for his own business house for advertisement purposes. When this boy reached his early 20s, he saw that success was kissing his very doorstep in all ways. He was very handsome, very good looking, model like, a fine specimen of human physique, especially male physique, was quite rich and was ready to hit this hard material life. Because he was young, he was extremely attractive. At that time, several like minded or contemporary beautiful lasses fell for this boy. Everyone wanted to marry this boy. However, one day this boy spotted one girl who reminded him in his subconscious memory that opposites attract. This guy was very handsome, but he lacked education or worldly experience. On the other hand, that girl was pretty, but she was also educated and professionally qualified in some school of education. She probably was already working somewhere when our hero, the scion of the business house, got attracted to this girl. This girl also found this boy quite handsome. This was pure lusty infatuation from either side. The two hot blooded youngsters chose not to look within each other's psyches to find how the subtle bodies of mind and logic of each other operated or was interested in carrying out with this life through causal intelligence or astral mind. They were fully besotted with each other thanks to their own etheric senses alone. According to Bhagavad Gita, lust is the root cause for all problems in this world, and lust is sensual. It is not platonic love, which is ruled by astral mind of feelings and emotions. Anyway, these two hot blooded youngsters threw caution to the winds and got into a wedlock in a hurry. Probably the saner, more mature and experienced elders advised each against this, but neither bothered to understand. One day, when this boy was in his early 30s and when both of them were already blissfully married, they went to a party in which the audience or the attenders of that party were friends of this girl's professional world of a particular profession in this material world. Even before this, after they got married, few tips and rifts began appearing in their charmed life. For the first time, the two found out the differences in the psyche of each other, and they found to their own dismay that they were not as compatible as they thought they would be in the beginning. Anyway, both these beautiful husband and wife went as a couple in that party attended by highly intelligent, qualified professionals who were the friends of this girl. As has been mentioned before in this video, this boy was hardly out of school in his career and he was a dropout right some 20 years ago. That is, he hardly completed his own schooling. Probably he had studied only up to 8th or ninth standard. Furthermore, because he was born in the lap of luxury, he never felt it important to gain worldly experience by working for a living. Everything that he wanted to or asked for came to his lap automatically because of his own identity as a handsome scion of a successful business house. Anyway, when these two went to that party, after a few drinks, they all started discussing on some high funda political, intellectual, or professional matter. This girl was at home in such an atmosphere. She was very well educated, very well spoken, and very well informed. She got into this discussion with other guests of the party, and they all went into an animated conversation about that particular topic. Our hero, the semi literate husband, who was a mute onlooker to this whole discussion, thought that he should also participate in this alien topic of discussion. In his innocence, lack of experience, and immaturity, combined with his semi literate background and intellectual faculties, he passed on some very laughable comments on the subject of discussion. Soon there was a pin drop silence. The other invitees were astonished at the naivete and ignorance of this man who looked so tall and handsome and was actually the husband of an intellectual friend of theirs. Many of them sniggered laughably. They looked at this girl askance. They wanted to say in so many words, have you married this idiot who knows nothing about any subject on which he is trying to wax eloquent? This girl was hurt to the quick. She felt very slighted. She could not imagine her own position as an embarrassed wife in front of her other quite intellectual professional colleagues or friends. In her extreme embarrassment and anger, she turned around and passed some very vitriolic and caustic remarks on her own stunned husband. If you don't know anything, don't open your loud, wide mouth, he shouted. You don't know anything from Adam, and it is actually a shame, indeed a shame, that you happen to be my handsome but dumb husband. This woman shouted shrilly. Our hero was stunned, shocked, and extremely pained by such a reaction from his own wife. By this time, some self serving, very callous guest sniggered, sneered, and jeered at this couple. This girl could manage to control herself, but this boy had too much of venom in one particular day. He was the son of a rich family, and hence nobody had dared to talk to him like this in his first 32 years in this terra firma, in this particular birth. No one had dared to point out to him that except for his good looks and his physique, he had nothing else to boast about. His astral mind and causal intelligence was all but zero. He had no education, no maturity, no experience, and no knowledge, and he came to know about this suddenly in this particular unimaginable or unforgettable moment. This boy was so stunned that he walked out of this party in a huff, leaving that lady in the party. Nobody noticed this boy going out. He went home. This girl came back from the party after some time, say in the early hours of the morning of next day. By this time, she had cooled down and probably she regretted having been so harsh to her husband. Now she wanted to apologize to him for her very vitriolic tongue and her caustic reaction to the whole situation. She went to their bedroom and found this boy sleeping. She thought that this guy was also distraught because of this happening and had gone to bed. The next morning, when this girl woke up, she found that this guy was not waking up at all and that he was frothing from his mouth. The doctors were called, who, after examining this boy, came to the conclusion that this guy had consumed a powder of some 30 to 40 sleeping pills along with water and had committed suicide. They were all shocked. They could not believe that one slight from his own wife in front of other sneering, and jeering invitees of a party could have had such a painful and drastic effect on this boy. They were all surprised, and it became a local, national, and then international news. All came to the conclusion that the attraction between the young couple was based on pure lust and that both had not bothered to understand each other perfectly before getting into a wedlock. And that was precisely the reason why this whole episode or this whole event came to such a sorry end. This is exactly like when an unevolved, immature, raw spirit soul tries to get attracted to this huge, very powerful material world just because of its own overconfidence, complacence, and feeling or confidence that it can lord it over this material world. Both the boy and the girl in this story thought similarly. They thought that they could control each other without any difficulty once they had become husband and wife. But alas, it was not going to be so in real life. just like the spirit soul gets entrapped into an endless chain of births and deaths in this material world. These two young couples, because of their own lust, got attracted to each other, fell into a wedlock, and tried to get on with their life without understanding each other's mind or intelligence or capacity or capability. That was the reason for such a calamitous result in their family or in their married life. We must all take a leaf out of the life story of this happily married or otherwise beautiful young couple, and we should be cautious enough to look before we leap into some unknown pit in this material world. We must realize that intelligence and logic plus experience and maturity, which are subtle qualities, are far more important than the physical looks of any individual, which is responsible only for the initial attraction towards each other. This is all I wanted to say in this particular case history. Kindly let me know what you think of my talk on this particular matter. Please give me your own expert opinions, thoughts, and ideas so that I may blend everything together for the sake of the public and for the viewers so that everyone gets knowledge, experience, and maturity about this hard but interesting material world and life in general. Before concluding, let me remind you that I am also a published author with Amazon Kindle and paperback. I write on spiritualism, fiction, and assorted subjects. Spiritualism happens to be my favorite subject. Till we meet in my next video, it is good morning from TSV Raghavan.